Today, I will be using 2 teams of Pokemon based on the 12 Zodiac signs. Which star signs will end up performing the best? And which one will I have to sacrifice to a 100 base power Rage Fist from an Annihilate that also got a Defiant boost? I apologize in advance. If you have an idea for a Pokemon team, be sure to comment below and I will use it. And if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Now let's get right into the battles. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, lovely people. Today I am using a Zodiac sign team. Now I heard that depending on how good the Zodiac signs do will determine how well the rest of your year will go. So anyway, special thank you to Ocelot Pi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly for the team idea. I have 2 interesting battles with 2 interesting teams, and I hope you enjoy them. Now, we have a Terra Normal Mousehold terrestrializing immediately, so I was like, okay, well, population bomb incoming. We actually have a double mouse lead. I'm running a tandem mouse here for Gemini. Now, I'm running a pretty interesting set. I have switcheroo with the choice scarf. So now I'm gonna give the Mousehold a choice scarf. This was just in case they locked themselves into tidy up, but they also locked themselves into population bombs. So I was like, that's fine because I do have a ghost type in the back, and me tricking this thing a choice scarf ended up changing the entire course of the battle. Now, I know I just ended up sacrificing my Gemini there, but trust me, it ended up being extremely crucial. So, I'm going to go for the Shadow Ball against the incoming Annihilate. Now, I'm running this for Pisces because there's obviously 2 forms of Basculegion. Unfortunately, the freaking Annihilate gets a Defiant boost. I'm like, oh, well, this sucks because I really have no switches into this, but I don't want to lose my Basculegion because that's my only ghost type into the Mousehold, which I need. So I ended up having to sacrifice my cloth. That was a special cloth, by the way. Sorry to anyone who's a Cancer, by the way. I know that I just sacrificed it, but like I really had like nothing to deal with this thing. Nothing was taking it 100 base power plus 2 attack Annihilate. So yeah, I'm really sorry in advance. So well, I already said that in my intro. Anyway, so this is a pretty interesting Tauros. Obviously, I have Tauros for Taurus. It's in its name. So the Mousehold is gonna go for the population bomb. It only gets 1 hit. Oh my goodness. So I'm running a Kunchu Endure set. Now I did that just to scout in case the Mousehold had like Bite, because with Technician Bite, it actually can hit Ghost type for pretty hard, super effective damage. So once again, I thought, well, they're locked into population bomb, so I'm gonna go for the Shadow Ball here. This is an agility Basculegion. I'm running a Shadow Ball, Hydro Pump, and a Terra Blast Fighting. So I thought, well, Dragonite shouldn't be able to threaten me. I should be able to go for a Shadow Ball, and hopefully it doesn't have Thunder Punch. Spoiler, it does have Thunder Punch, and I get paralyzed by it. No! I was like, okay, well, thank goodness I live, but the para means I'm gonna get outsped, so I'm gonna have to swap that out. And into my Gothorita here for Libra. Now, the reason I chose this for Libra was because, according to Bulbapedia, its hairstyle may be based on the Libra scale. So, you know, I thought it was like the best Pokemon for it. And also like the Gothorita line in general is very like astral themed. Like Gothitelle is, I forgot what Gothitelle is based on, but it's definitely based on something like space related and like star related. So this is a very defensive Gothorita. Now this Dragonite ends up having a Roost, Extreme Speed, Thunder Punch, and Fire Punch. So I was like, okay, well, thank goodness it doesn't have Dragon Dance. I'm going to set up Calm Minds here. Now, this is a Rest Sleep Talk Gothorita. I'm running Calm Mind and Psyshock. Normally, I would have Stored Power on this, but I'm running Psyshock just in case, like, I don't want to, like, get, like, caught with, like, a 20 base power move without, like, boosting, because Stored Power relies on you having to boost your stats. So, the Dragonite is going to swap out, seeing that I have Rest as my recovery, and they're going to go into Mousehold. So, I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I could live a population bomb from like full, but I don't really want to stay in case they do go for it. I get the Psyshock on my Sleep Talk though, so I'm like, okay, that's good. I end up getting some really good chip damage. It doesn't end up taking out the Mousehold, but I do get off some really good damage. So this is a risky swap in, but I end up swapping in my Basculegion, thinking that they might go for population bomb, which they do. So I was like, okay, good. I'm gonna end up going for another Shadow Ball, me going for Ghost type moves against the normal type. And Golden Go comes in. I was like, oh my goodness, this thing is going to get absolutely blown away. And so I take out the Golden Go, and one hit. This paralyzed Basculegion is being super important right now. So in comes the Mousehold. Now, I was thinking here, well, this could have Bite, so I'm going to swap in my Tauros here in case they do have it. But they end up having Bullet Seed, so I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. I always expect a Mousehold to have Population Bomb and like bite and like tidy up an encore, right? So I'm gonna get hit 4 times with that bullet seed, and I was thinking here, well, I do have a good switching into this actually. I have Capricorn here. This Go-Go was crazy. So getting the Sap Sipper, now I'm immune to the grass moves, and I thought, well, two things that happen. They have 2 grass resist. They either go into their Dragonite or the Iron Moth in the back. So I anticipated Dragonite to come in, and I went for Play Rough versus that, and I'm running a max attack Go-Go, so I don't think that crit even mattered, especially since I'm +1 attack. Now, this was interesting. So the Iron Moth comes in. It's going to have a booster energy, and it's going to give a booster energy in special attack. So you're probably thinking, okay, well, I'm absolutely cooked right here, right? Like, especially since I'm like max attack, I'm not bulk invested, but I have an assault vest on this thing, so I'm able to live the special attack boosted fiery dance from this thing, and I have earthquake for it as well, which takes it out. It wouldn't hit 2 KOs for the goat. So I thought here, well, I don't want, and just in case they don't go for Pop Bomb, I don't want to swap in my Basket Legion and like risk losing to Pop Bomb in the end game. So I'm gonna sacrifice Capricorn, but man, Capricorn was just so good in this game. So swapping in my Basket Legion here because they locked themselves into Population Bomb, and in comes the Mimikyu. Now, I was definitely very scared of this Pokemon because it has a good matchup into the rest of my team, and at the very least, I do break its disguise. So I was like, okay, well, I'm probably gonna end up having to sacrifice my Tauros here, in case this thing wants to go for like Shadow Claw versus me, but it ends up going for Shadow Sneak. So I was like, okay, well, I do end up living that, and I'm running the Starfberry with the Kutchu with Endure, so I can like keep potentially getting like Starfberry boost. I get a special defense boost, amazing. So I end up going for Stone Edge. It actually ends up not going for Shadow Sneak, which I thought was interesting. So I was like, okay, well, Play Rough is easily gonna be enough to take me out because I'm on like 3 health. But I did do some really good damage versus this Mimikyu. Now, I'm running Terra Fairy on this Libra set. I'll explain all of the sets in the box below because obviously, like, I'm explaining why I use the Pokemon as a specific Zodiac sign, while also explaining the sets, while also explaining what the opponent is doing to me. So, thankfully, since I'm Terra Fairy now, I'm able to tank that Mimikyu Shadow Sneak with the greatest of ease. Now, going for the Sleep Talk here, I thought, well, a Psyshock would be nice because then I could be able to take it out, but I ended up getting Calm Mind. So I was like, okay, well, you know, it depends on what this Mimikyu has. I don't know if it has Swords Dance or like how much Play Rough will do, but it ends up having Pain Split. So I'm like, oof, that's pretty rough. So I'm gonna wake up here and Psyshock is gonna come out for me. And since they have that Pain Split, they're able to live that Psyshock. So I'm like, well, they're probably gonna Pain Split again. And this is gonna be very close because the Mousehold is probably, it might go for a Bullet Seed versus me, and I am very bulky in defense, so they would need 5 hits from Bullet Seed with Technician in order to take me out, or like a crit on like 4 hits, right? So they actually end up going for Population Bomb instead though, so I'm like, okay, well, obviously that's going to take out my Gothorita, but they pretty much sealed their fate here because I still have my paralyzed Basket Legion in the back, and I could easily go for, oh, obviously I don't want to go for like Hydro Pump. I have a Terra Blast on this set, which I could go for versus this thing, and that's pretty much going to be the end of this game. So the MVPs in this game, definitely like Capricorn helping me get those 2 KOs, especially versus Iron Moth. And this Paralyzed Basket Legion, like I said, even Tandem Mouse with its Choice Scarf switcheroo, Gemini ended up being really helpful in that game. So hope you enjoyed this battle, and now on to this next battle. Now this team was more interesting because this was actually an Ubers team. And this might be the worst Ubers team I've ever used because the 3 legendary Pokemon that I use aren't exactly like, well, they aren't Miraidon level Ubers, I would say. So, leading these off here with Scorpion. Now, this is a pure hazard setting lead. This has Stealth Rock, it has Spikes and Toxic Spikes and Knockoff, but I'm only able to get off my Stealth Rock. Now, I thought that that was the most important hazard for me to get off in this game, just because they had an Ogerpon Heart Flame, which doesn't have any way to, like, mitigate its hazard removal damage. So, into Aquarius, this is my star sign. This was a really hard star sign to designate a Pokemon to, but I'm running a Tail Glow Manaphy. Alluring Voice does good damage. I was thinking that this Chien-Pao was Focus Sash. I get flinched with Icicle Crash. No, I actually had a Guava Berry on that, and it just put me out of range for that to activate. Oh my goodness. So, swapping in my Reshiram. Now, this is a really fun set. I also thought it was like good for Aries because it's a ram. Like, it has Reshiram in its name. I also thought like the shape of its head fit. This is a especially defensive Reshiram. This also has Rest Sleep Talk, and it has Blue Flare and Dragon Tail, with which coincides with Scorpio, the Gligar, because then I could like Dragon Tail and like phase out the opposing Pokemon and repeatedly have them take like hazard damage. So it's a pretty interesting set. I'm able to take the Icicle Crash from the Chanpao and take it out, which is really nice. So in comes Chi-Yu. Now, ugh, this Pokemon, like, I had no switches to this thing. Even though I'm specially defensive, I'm not going to tank, like, a Choice Specs Dark Pulse from this thing. So, unfortunately, I had to sacrifice my own Star Sign. You can't call me biased. My own Star Sign didn't really do much in this game. Well, it did break Chanpao's Focus Sash, which was more than Cancer did. But, like, still, I had no switches to this thing. So, it's a Sagittarius here for, Origin Palkia. Now, I'm running a physical Palkia. This is crazy. I also chose this for Sagittarius just because of the fact that it's the closest Pokemon to a Centaur. And I don't know, I didn't think that, even though it's the Archer Star sign, I didn't really like want to use Decidueye. I wanted to use a better representative for like the Centaur as a whole. So that's why Palkia Origin is here. So I'm going to sacrifice my Reshiram here versus this incoming Miraidon. I had to get Ubers battles with this team, which, can I say, are very hard to get. Well, for me, I have to get these Ubers battles late night. By the way, I tanked that Electro Drift, the special defense investment. But it's really hard for me to get legendary battles with, like, in general, like, with Pokemon. Because obviously everyone is always using, like, teams with, like, Great Tusk and everything. So I have to do these battles late night in order for me to get, like, people that are more likely to use legendaries. So, into Gardevoir. Now, Virgo was another star sign that I had trouble designating a Pokemon to. But, you know, Gardevoir, the less I said, the better. So I'm gonna go for the Choice Scarf Moonblast. I copied the Hedron engine, so that's actually gonna do a lot of damage, and I take out the Miraidon. So that was a great KO. So in comes the Iron Crown. Now I have no switches to this thing. Wow, that's a commonality. And they have a special attack boost. So I thought, well, I might as well get my Hedron engine boosted damage versus this thing. Well, that critical hit did over half. What insane damage. Unfortunately, this thing has a Citrus Berry, though. So I was like, okay, well, they're easily going to go for, like, Tachyon Cutter and, like, KO me. But I did end up getting some crucial damage versus this thing. And I did end up KOing their Uber Pokemon. So that's an accomplishment on my part. So into Solgaleo here for Leo. Obviously, it's in its name. You can't really argue against this. So I thought it would be better than Pyro anyway. So this is a pretty interesting Solgaleo set. Unfortunately, the Iron Crown has Volt Switch, which ends up breaking my substitute. So I was like, dang. But I'm running Slackberry Solgaleo here. Now, this is a speedy set. I'm running a Sunsteel Strike, Earthquake, and Knockoff with Terra Dark. Now, in comes the Ogerpon Hard Flame, which I mentioned earlier, and it's going to take that Stealth Rock damage. Now, I was like, okay, well, if I Terrasilize here, I'm not going to be weak to Ivy Cudgel, but they might Terrasilize their Ogerpon instead, and they might go for Ivy Cudgel versus me, and, like, it's going to do a lot of damage. It's going to be very close whether or not I live, but this turn I thought, well, I'm going to go for a Substitute just in case they don't Terrasilize, and I'm able to get, like, a Salac Berry and put myself in, like, behind a Substitute, but I end up outspeeding the Ogerpon, so I'm like, okay, well, that's actually super important that I outspeed it, because now, since they Terrasilize, they're no longer neutral to Earthquake. They're now weak to Earthquake, and I'm going to be able to get off a really big Earthquake. I assume that they're running Adamant Nature, because Adamant Max Speed actually does not outspeed Jolly Max Speed Solgaleo, which is what I'm running. So the Earthquake is going to end up taking out the Ogerpon. So I'm like, okay, that's great. They're actually, the rest of their team struggles with Earthquake a lot. So I'm going to be able to get off some really good damage on the rest of their team. So in comes the Iron Hands. Now, I figured that an Earthquake wasn't going to be taking out this thing because it's such a tank. But I do a lot of damage, but it goes for a Drain Punch, and it's going to end up recovering a lot of its health. Maybe in hindsight, I should have went for Substitute. That way, if it went for Drain Punch and KO'd me, it would have recovered less damage. But hindsight's 20/20. I did still do a lot of damage with Leo. So the last Pokemon I have is my Origin Palkia. Now, this is a bulk up Palkia. It has base 100 attack. So, you know, it has less attack than a Krabby. But, it's still a fun set. I had to run, obviously, its signature item in order to maintain its Origin form. But I'm running a bulk up Earthquake, Liquidation, Dragon Claw with Terra Steel so that I can resist Fairy Move. So I'm going to be able to 2-hit KO the Iron Hands. It does a lot of damage with Drain Punch, but I'm able to 2-hit KO it at the very least. And the last Pokemon is Iron Crown, which I'm easily going to dispose of with the Earthquake. And that's the end of both games. Thank you all so much for watching. Actually, leave a comment below telling me which star sign you think did the best in this entire game. I'm interested to see what people think. My name is SkyLaaa. Don't forget to smile, and I will see you all next time.